Welcome to Science with Soul. I'm Dr. Lottie Valentine and the host of this program. I'm a physician, evidential psychic medium, international keynote speaker, and the author of Med School After Menopause, The Journey of My Soul. This podcast was inspired by events from my own life, and as I have journeyed through life, it has taught me that we're part of a greater divine web of interconnectedness. I have walked the path of illness, healing, and transformation, and after experiencing 2 near-death experiences, I became clairvoyant, clairaudient, and clairsentient, and I was guided to attend medical school at the age of 54. In this podcast, we will meet many different types of doctors, healers, spiritual leaders, educators, and other interesting souls. And it is my hope that you will gain information from this podcast to help create a path of healing your own life physically, emotionally, and spiritually, and bridge the gap between science and soul. Welcome to Science with Soul. I'm Dr. Lottie and the host of this podcast. Today, I am so excited to introduce to you Beth Gineris. And she is just an amazing woman. She is an intuitive healer and an energy medicine practitioner. She integrates training in wellness and consciousness, acupuncture, and energy medicine with a PhD in applied ecopsychology, a master's in business administration, and a master's in Oriental Medicine to bring clients into alignment of their spirit, mental, emotional, and physical systems. She calls her work Instinctive Health Medicine. She has training in acupuncture, reiki, energy medicine, psychology, nutrition, and yoga to bring you into alignment with your goals and life purpose. Her mission is to assist in the elevation of consciousness of the planet by assisting others to live a more enlightened, balanced life. She has written several books on mindfulness, and her innovative MAAPS system helps one develop a deeper understanding of how you function in relationship and how to transcend conflict at a quantum level so that you can reset and shift internally and create mutually loving and powerful relationships in all spheres of your life, work, personal, and community at large. I am so excited to have you with me today, Beth. You're truly an amazing woman, and I can't wait to hear what you have to share with the audience today. What brought you to do this kind of work, and what is your authentic journey that brought you onto this path of healing?
Hi, Dr. Lottie. Oh my gosh, it's so great to be here with you. I think that many healers have gone through crises to get to this point where they really bring valuable information to the planet and to other people. And so I, like other healers, like yourself, had to go through some stuff to get to that point. I think, gosh, of course, I started my work as a counselor. And what was interesting about my experience is that I knew when I had somebody sitting across from me, I knew what was going on with them because I had this sort of psychic download that I would see what had happened to them. I would understand all dimensions of what had happened, and I would be listening to their story. Yet my work was to work in psych, right? To help them from a counseling point of view. And as I continued to develop my way of being with people, I discovered that the mind is good. It's good to help the mind shift, and cognitive behavioral and DBT, all these different counseling things are helpful, but it's not enough because really our spirit needs to become involved. And also we have to make shifts in people's bodies because we hold patterns both from a spiritual point of view and also from a physical point of view. So working with the mind alone was just not sufficient. So I went back to school and I got another degree. First, I got this degree in business, and that was more about understanding how groups work, how kind of third dimension works. understanding what affects people in their, what I learned later was more their ego personality, right? Third dimension. And then I kept doing work with groups and humans in front of me, and I began to see that the answer had to be with the physical body as well, that energy component. That's when I went back to go to school to get the acupuncture degree. And so I started to use points on the body, energy medicine, to connect with their spirit, and how their spirit was connected with my spirit, and helped them to change their mind, to change how they respond in the world, and integrate those spheres of influence, right? The spirit, the mind, and the body. And I think that it was powerful because of the things that had happened to me as a young person. I came from a very traumatic situation, a traumatic childhood, lots of trauma, the things that you hear all the time. And yet my response in the world was to be more loving and more spiritually aligned. And I started to understand that those decision processes along the way are the things that I want to really help people make decisions about, right? Because when we react defensively, when we react negatively, or we start to get down into those third dimensional, what I would call like the lower responses, the world sort of falls apart. But if we can start to align with our heart, align with our soul, align with our spirit, call on the angels to maybe help a little bit, then we can kind of make a quantum shift. So I feel like that was really what helped me so much, is my own personal experiences in life. And then of course, the training, right? And then how I integrated those to help me start to see what I wanted to do to help people and the planet.
Wow, that's quite a journey. So how do you, when you talk about elevation of consciousness, what do you mean by that?
Yeah, it's a funny term. So we don't really talk about consciousness the way that I'm communicating about it. I studied, when I was in undergrad, I studied all of the philosophers about consciousness. And one of my graduate program, in my master's program, I wrote a paper. So my dissertation was on phenomenology. And phenomenology is this concept that what matters is what's happening around you, right? So if you and I are interacting, and then something else comes in, someone else comes in, then that changes the energy completely. It's all about how our senses connect with the senses on the planet. And as I've been aging and developing, I've discovered that we really do have connections with trees and with plants and with the stars. These are all areas that we can connect, right? And in order to elevate our consciousness, we have to start to understand that all things have consciousness, and we have to bring in those different levels. And so I started to see, as I started to work in my own meditation, I started to see that we have these different dimensions of consciousness. Third dimension is the one that you and I are currently in, well, partially anyway, as we're having this conversation. And then there's fourth dimension, which is more astral. And then fifth dimension is where I work a lot when I'm working on people, or if I'm trying to help people elevate their consciousness, where I want to get them to start to meditate, because that's the dimension where we can create perfect healing, really perfect self, like we align wholly with our spirit. And then as you keep going up those dimensions to like 12th dimension, you just keep getting further and further away from your ego self and more toward just all. It's really quite cool. So my hope is that I am able to assist individuals and then groups to elevate their consciousness, which will help us as a planet to elevate into this new way of being in the world, this fifth dimensional way.
So when you're working, you talk about elevating people's consciousness and to that fifth level of healing. Do you think that people can just miraculously heal? Do you think that that's possible, miracle healing?
I do actually believe in miracle healing, and I've seen it occur. I also feel that our attachments and our belief systems interfere with us experiencing it. The more attached we are to things being in a certain way, like even to things being solid in a way, right? Or to our belief systems, the less likely we will experience a miracle healing. But I believe that miracle healing is 100% possible. And I've seen it happen with people in front of me and even in my own life. Do you want me to give you a story? I bet a story would
Sure,
probably help.
yes. Tell us a story. I'd love to hear one.
So I I think that one example is how we can really pay attention to our sensory guidance system. So I was talking earlier about phenomenology and the senses and how we have spirit, mind, and body. Our physicality actually has senses. Of course, we talk about that. Sight, sound, all these different senses. We have more than those six. And when I say six, I include intuition. We have more than those. We have all sorts of senses that help to guide us. Maybe I'm thirsty. Maybe I want to be connected to somebody. Those are all senses as well. They drive us toward how we want to be in the world. And miracle healing is about getting into that experience of senses and allowing your sensory guidance system to guide you so that you actually make a quantum leap into discharging all of that negative energy and becoming more of who you are. My example was, sorry, my story was like, my daughter's father had a freckle on his leg, and he, it was just a freckle. Shouldn't be anything. But whenever I put my hand over it, it was around his knee. Whenever I put my hand over it, it hurt. It burned my hand, hot like a poker. And I would say, I don't like that, And I asked him to go to his dermatologist. Can you go and just evaluate that freckle? So after months of me bringing this up, he did finally go to his dermatologist, and his dermatologist said no. He looked at it with his special little, lens, and he said, no, it's just totally fine. There's nothing wrong with it. It kept bothering me. So finally, he returned, and I said, could you just have him take it out and just biopsy? Let's just make sure that I'm wrong, And they did. They took it out, and it was cancer. And it was melanoma cancer stage 2.
Wow.
It was in a spot that it would never have been found, and he would have died from that cancer before they found it. So it's a miracle healing, not in that I just touched it and I healed it, but rather by using our ability to be in the world, we can get ourselves into a path of health and remove those elements that we maybe created earlier that were negative, and shift our path onto healing and be perfectly healed. And it's never returned. He's perfectly healed.
Love it. That's such a great story. Do you think that, so you put your hand on his knee and it burned your hand, and you could feel that energy from that little dot, and you knew instinctively that something was not right. Now, do you think that other people can train themselves to become sensitive, or do you think just some people have that ability?
I absolutely do think that we all have the ability. I think everybody on the planet has the ability to feel things with their hands, know things within their selves, and they can develop that. I know that you actually do some of that work. So you are out there as one of us, getting people to find their way to experience those things, but anyone can do it. And you start by just listening. And so if you were to, make a decision that this is something you want, you could start your day with a meditation. And it doesn't have to be a serious meditation like, now I have to go learn TM. Rather, it's just, I'm going to be quieting myself. I'm going to set some intentions about what I want to do. And as I'm going through my day, to start to ask myself, what should I do here? What do I feel? And start to pay attention to those messages that come, and they usually come from our bodies. Interestingly, our body, we get a sense, this doesn't feel right, maybe I should take my sweater, even though it's totally warm outside, but you have this idea you want to take your sweater. And then later in that day, it turns cold and you didn't know it was going to, right? We have the messages. So it's all about making a decision to both have an intention and then attention to what's going on in your day and start to allow yourself to be guided.
Mm-hmm.
And I feel like there's many ways that one can do it, right? They can start to do this by feeling in the world. They can also like get a piece of paper and make a collage about what they want to create. There are many ways that a person can start to make that process happen. And then you can seek out mentors who will help you further.
So how do you bridge your scientific and academic studies with your paranormal experience of being guided by and working with angels or other star beings?
Yeah, it's a funny thing. So for many, many years, I think I lived basically two lives. So there was the angelic component directly connected to spirit, where I had psychic information and I knew things. And then there was this part of me that had developed all of these trainings so that I would go through this process of, oh, well, logically it's this. And I started to bridge it by asking the angels to help me and then searching for information that might fit, or asking the angels to assist me with actually words that I wouldn't know. Like maybe as I have my hands on somebody when I'm working on them with acupuncture, and then I do a little energy work with them, maybe I'll see a word like maybe they have lupus, or maybe they were hurt at some point and they need to release that belief system. So I start to integrate using my knowing through this process that I already have, like the acupuncture or the psychology or meditation, yoga. It's
Yeah.
really powerful, I
Mm-hmm.
think, because when you can bring the things that are already happening around you and then assist others by connecting with their spirit, that's when that bridge is so important, the
Mm-hmm.
science and the paranormal.
What is one thing that anyone listening can do to help them get into their soul journey or move towards healing? What are those steps to keep realigning to body, mind, spirit toward their soul purpose?
So the first thing is one of the things that I just talked about, where you actually would start to pay attention to those senses. Just start with the senses you know, right? Um, how does something feel? This doesn't taste right, or I have a funny feeling about that person, or I really like that person and I'm attracted to that idea. So start going toward the things that you're attracted to. And one of the most important things that I have to talk with people about around this is we have strong feelings. I have them I'm going to say in my gut. Like I might not, when I feel fear, I feel it more in my stomach. I'll feel sick to my stomach a little bit. And when I feel uh, a joy or an attraction, then I feel that through my whole body and I feel a lightening. And so what I've noticed is that if we can pay attention to those things we're attracted to and go toward those, then that will help them move along this path. So anyone can start to do that. So the first step is to figure out, when I have a sense about something that's just really a joy or something I'm attracted to, something I want to create, what does that feel like? And where do I feel it in my body? And then if I am afraid about something, like, oh, someone's going to break up with me, or someone's going to do this, or I'm going to lose my job, where do I feel that in my body? So that we can start then to say, oh, that's just a fear. And I don't want to put attention to my fear. I want to put attention to what I'm attracted to. My experience is that fear is loud, and it usually pulls on you in a really big, loud way. And truth or intuition, things you're attracted to, those things tend to be much more quiet. They're much lighter. And so that's what you want to feed. You want to feed that. So that's the first step. And then starting to be grateful for whatever is working in your life, just commenting on what you're grateful for. anytime you're afraid or anytime you start to feel negative, try to flip that and see what are you grateful for, or how's that negative thing creating something really great that you're grateful for. Yeah, I just went through all that, but if I hadn't gone through all that, I wouldn't be here. So we start to do that. That's the second step. And then the third step, I have it written down here, so I just have to look. The third step is to search for and discover stepping stones on your path, which is you start to then stay in the present moment and say, oh, that feels stronger. That's where I want to go. You would have to start to face beliefs that are holding you back. And that's a hard thing for people to find on their own. Sometimes they'll need support with that one. What are my beliefs that are telling me? What are my limitations that are telling me I can never have that thing that I want? And so we start to look at that differently and be grateful for maybe some belief systems that helped us to survive some negative situations, but that they don't serve us anymore. So we're going to just let those go. And then every time being clear about what you want. One of the things that I think is really important is that we cannot create something we haven't identified we want. It's very difficult to create something that you haven't even identified. So we have to first identify what we don't want so we can not have that anymore, and then identify what we want. Many people are good at surviving under certain circumstances. This is what I have, so what can I be okay with? But when I say you can have anything, they're lost. They don't really know how to create that because they're so used to just living under limitation. Yet we can really have whatever we want if we can start to think about how to look at the world that way, using those senses, remembering, right? And then just starting to, the last step that I think about a lot is to really start to cut those belief systems, letting them go, catching yourself when you're in it. Something like, well, that's just a thought. That is a fear, but that doesn't mean it's going to happen. And I want to put my energy in the thing I want to create. Defenses, anger, those things, like even in Buddhism, they talk about these things are not positive, but they actually, if you pay attention to them and you understand they're useful, they're telling us something. If I'm really angry about something, it's possible that somebody's crossed some boundary, right? And so that helps me understand. So I always think about it a little bit like anger, a little bit like an alarm system on a house. The alarm goes off, it's blaring, right? Somebody's crossed in. And so you go and you turn off the alarm system, and then you go and look through the house to make sure it's safe. Well, what we do a lot of times with beliefs that were set up around injuries that we had, anger, defense mechanisms, habits of belief, limitations, what we do is just they grow and they grow. They're constantly blaring all the time. And we never turn them off. We never understand exactly what happened and then let it go. So yes, our partner may have upset us. They crossed a boundary. Okay, now I understand that. Let's talk about how we want to redo things. And so that is one of the last steps too, is to start to understand how we've created these limits and how we can help ourselves.
Wow, I love your depth of knowledge. It's just amazing. I know it's going to lead me to the book question. I know you've written several books. Can you tell the listeners about the books that you have written?
Oh, sure. That'd be awesome. So I wrote a book on parenting. It's called Turning No to On, The Art of Parenting with Mindfulness. And the little tagline is kind of cool. Shifting negative interactions no into opportunities for learning and connection on. And so what you're really doing is moving from no to yes and off to on. And with your interactions with your child, you're trying to assist them in understanding themselves so you can help them be better human beings, right? Or be their best self, whoever that is. And so Mindfulness in Parenting, that's my first book. And my second, that was written in 2011. And my second book is called Turning Me to We, The Art of Partnering with Mindfulness. And it's shifting competition and narcissism, which is me, to collaboration and connection, which is we. And the concept with this book, so the first book is much more of a supportive, like self-help parenting book, like for young moms and also moms of teenagers. And I talk a little bit about how to work through issues that are troubling and how do you actually stay mindful, because that's actually a little bit more difficult than you might think, right? Because we just are reactive as parents, right? So how do we get, oh shoot, how do I get myself back to mindfulness, or how do I couch this so that it feels mindful, right? The second book is much more of a like a training man. You could use this as a therapist could use this book. This is really talking about what sets us up to be in relationship. What do we think is a good relationship? And it's a lot about perspective and paradigm and temperament and things that have happened in our lives and belief systems, right? And that's in that book is where I talk about MAAPS. And you mentioned MAAPS in the intro, and I appreciate you talking about it. MAAPS is something that I discovered in my work with groups, couples, as well as small groups, that we are driven to relate based on certain kinds of security drivers. So we're fine at relating until we hit something we have a lot of security issues with, so insecurity around, and then that's where the icky stuff comes in relationship. And so understanding what yours is beneficial, and your partner's, and also trying to say, okay, well, that's true about me. And then how do I mindfully work with that and let it go so that I can just be more compassionate and collaborative in how I choose to do relationship, right? So the MAAPS stands for money, attention, achievement, power, and structure. So that's the little acronym of MAAPS, right? And I have found that most people have insecurities in at least one, but usually two. And they make it so that they have a lot of trouble in relationship. Either they create codependent relationships where two halves come together, and in those relationships, individuals have a lot of trouble with the word no. They just can't say no, and they give more and more and more of themselves until finally they can't be in the relationship anymore. Or they have a style of relationship, which is what I call an I. So the first one was a me style, kind of codependent. The second one is an I style of relationship, and it's basically two people walking side by side, but their boundary doesn't ever cross. Like they have a lot of trouble with yes. And so the different MAAPS security drivers will push you into either that me or that I style. And the goal of the book is to help people be a we style of relationship, which is much more interdependent. It's more like a Venn diagram where there are two circles that overlap each other. So that central component is the couple or the partners. And then there's still a self on the other side, right? So really it's 1 + 1 = 3, as opposed to, 1 + 1 = just like half and half come together, right? So that book is really a great book. And it's where I started to develop information about how we can transcend conflict, because conflict is really about protecting ourselves in these various forms in relationship. And we have to transcend that. We have to really elevate our consciousness and live in that world where we want to be connected and we want to collaborate and we don't want to lose ourselves. And how does that work? So those are those two books. And those are available. That one was written in 2013, and they're available through Amazon.com. And I'm bringing them forward again. And hopefully in future, if I get to have an opportunity to talk with you again, I can let you know who they're going to be published with in the future. And then my third book is...
What was the title of that one again?
Me to We.
Me to
Turning
We.
Me to We, the art of partnership, partnering with mindfulness.
Okay.
And so my other book is a story about how we can actually elevate our consciousness. And that book hasn't been published yet. We're working on getting that published. It'll be out in next year. And it really is about what we've been talking about, these two lives that I've been going through, and how it gives us information about how everyone can find their way to this. So
I can't wait.
It's exciting.
Yes. But you don't know when it's going to be out yet, just sometime in
We don't have the
2021
date
or?
yet.
Okay.
2021. Yeah.
Right. Well, we'll be looking for it.
Wonderful.
So can you talk a little bit about how body, mind, and spirit work to communicate to you about how you are out of alignment, the energy of Shen, the Qi, and the blood from acupuncture?
Yeah. Okay. So this is the thing that I started to realize. So I'm so glad you asked this question. So in Chinese medicine, we have Shen, Qi, blood, yin, and yang, and each of those are more substantial.
So what can you tell the listeners what that means? What is the Shen and the Qi for those that are not familiar with it?
Absolutely. So Shen is basically spirit, and Qi is basically energy. In my experience, it's also the mind and the thoughts. And then blood, yin and yang, they're basically your body, your physical body. So when disease begins in the body, it actually begins from a Shen perspective, a spirit disconnect that then over time spins the body out of alignment until there's an energy and mind disconnect. So those are belief systems that shift and people start to get blockages in their body, in their muscles, and in their tone. They'll start to perhaps even develop disease that would be much more serious. Then when it gets into the blood and the yin, as it continues to spin out, so we're talking over a period of time, that's when you start to see diseases that will show up in science, right? So somebody will have fibromyalgia or they'll have some other component. So my story, my example of this is, let's say a young person is raped. So that creates a spiritual disconnect. They're thrown out of their body by the experience of the rape. So spiritually, they're now not aligned. It's almost as if we are one. You can't see what I'm doing. So I'm bringing my finger around. We're one being, spirit, mind, and body. But then when spirit gets disconnected, it's as if you have two spinning things. So there's something that's spinning askew, which is spirit. And then there's still mind and body. That's okay. But then over time, there's a thought, right? The thought is that was my fault. So now I have to change the way I dress. I have to change the way I am. I'm a bad person. There are all these thoughts that come into play. So now the person starts to spin out from the mind component. Maybe they hold their body very, very tightly, very much in, as if they're constantly in a tight experience. And then over time, that becomes a blood or a yin damage, which would be something like fibromyalgia. So that gives you an example.
Mm-hmm.
So they're very related to each other. And I'm using our concept of spirit, mind, and body, and the concept that came from this old medicine, Chinese medicine, of Shen and Qi and blood and yin and yang. And so we can unravel that by starting to help people reconnect to spirit and shift their belief systems. They might still have to treat their body in different ways. I use acupuncture to do that, but they might do other things as well. They might do yoga. They might do whatever it appears is most useful in unraveling that part that's physical too.
Mm-hmm.
And so that's what I think is really powerful, is how they really do relate to each other.
And how do you so I could see that, you know, something happens to somebody, something bad, and then that sort of manifests into the physical body. What about, for example, children that are born with tumors? Is that more a life path, incarnated genetics, or how do you explain that part?
Well, so I still think that that's probably spirit, right? It's a life path, incarnated genetics, but that would be a connection to spirit, right? And then it moves into how they are in the world. I feel that there are definitely individuals that don't get a miracle healing because that's not what they're meant to do. Like their spirit, their soul, their reason for coming here was a different thing. So their miracle healing may be for the people who are caring for them, or for some other connection.
Mm-hmm.
Those people maybe had some agreement with them to go ahead and heal and go through this process together.
Mm-hmm. Do you think that people have soul contracts?
I do think that. I feel that people have contracts with their parents. They have contracts with a soul group. I think that some people come onto the planet that are from other star systems, and they're here to help us. I think there are ascended masters who've agreed to come back in as regular us people, and they're here to go through many experiences to reascend at a different level to assist the planet. I think that's actually, there's many people on the planet right now who are going through that process.
Yeah. What advice would you give to somebody that has a disease such as cancer or something? What advice could you give to those people?
Yeah, so I think that's really powerful. I still would want them to look at their belief systems about their limitation. I would encourage them to work at an energetic level with fifth dimension. So when I've worked with people in fifth dimension, what I would actually do is I go into fifth and I work with them in fifth. So I would work where the cancer is. I would ask the person in their spirit self in fifth, is this something that is a planned completion, or are you wanting to release this? Is this something for you to let go of? And then work with them at that point based on what they communicate to me in fifth, because where we say in third is not exactly the whole picture. But when we get to fifth, there's more information. Sometimes what one is wanting to do in fifth can't actually make it all the way down to third. So even if I'm able to work with that person in fifth, they may not be able to bring that all the way into third and make that adjustment.
So somebody with cancer, would you advise them, for example, to continue with their regular allopathic treatments of chemotherapy, and then also work with it in a different way, like you're suggesting, spiritually?
Yeah, absolutely. I feel that once you got into something that is life-threatening, like third dimensional, you have a timestamp on you. You want to make sure that you use what's in third dimension and then you can add to that, complement with this more esoteric work. I've seen it be very, very profound. The things that I've been successful with have been things like cancer, COPD, serious heart issues, and then a lot of different kinds of mental health issues, serious suicidality, depression, those things I've had more success with. MS, I've not had as much success with. Yeah.
Comprehensive package approach.
Absolutely. I feel like it's not an either or situation at all. We're living in third dimensional bodies. And so we have to deal with third dimension. And also we can engage these other elements, you see.
Absolutely. I'm in agreement with you there, because I feel sometimes people think that they should not do the treatments that are available to them in the third dimension because they can heal with celery juice or do yoga. And they sort of forget that they also need to combine the treatments that are available, but they have to incorporate all the other treatments as well to get a truly holistic approach. And I love your explanation of, going after the mental health and the fifth dimension and bringing everything down and integrate it. Can you explain how acupuncture is such a great tool to align the body, mind, spirit, and open the communication between personality or ego body or history of habit patterns with a higher spirit or soul consciousness, and how this is a function of the third and fifth dimensions?
Well, so it's a little bit what we've been talking about, right? So acupuncture, there's a grid on our bodies, right? So we have spheres around our bodies. We have chakra spheres through our bodies. And then we have this grid of acupuncture points that are these energetic meridians that all connect. And if a physical therapist was listening to this they would understand it as anatomy trains. There's a book out there called Anatomy Trains, and they look along those nerve pathways, and they use all of the acupuncture meridians. They're in alignment with each other. And then there are all these different points. Some of the information about how to utilize acupuncture has been lost. It's an old medicine. It's been around a very long time. And there have been political influences to remove some of the information for mental, emotional treatments, for spirit treatments. But it's there as you learn to work with it more and more. But those points, you can access ghost points, you can access window of the sky points, you can access all the extra meridian points. These points all help a person get more in touch with the spirit, mind, body, and align. And they can expel things that they don't want anymore, right? So this all can work together. It takes a person as a practitioner who's willing to connect with the consciousness of the client. And there has to be a willingness of working together. It's not, I can't just say, oh, you should do this. There really is a willingness of working together. And then listening to the points and listening to what happens when I put those points in. But acupuncture is really a powerful system in that way, because it really has such an ability to shift the physical, emotional, and spiritual bodies.
I love it. It's so important. And I love how you also mentioned that there's a relationship between the patient and the healer, physician, acupuncturist, or whatever type of healing modality you are using, because that relationship is so important, and the trust that's developed between the patient and the healer.
I agree with you. And I actually feel like this is a really powerfully important thing, that we can't really exert a change if that isn't in the best interest of the client or the patient. We have to assist them to go where they need to go. We don't know what their soul agreement is. We might hear it, we might see it, but really we have to assist them. And if they don't want to go down that road, even if we see that it could make a difference,
right, absolutely,
it's not appropriate.
It's you can lead that horse to water, but you can't make him drink, because it's so true. It has to come from them too. They have to want to go there. It's so important.
That's been the most important lesson of my long time as a therapist, a counselor, a coach, and is that, I have to hold the space and be with that person from where they are, and be ready with the next step, and even maybe entice them or guide them, but allow them to have what they want with their own life. Very powerful. We don't cure. We allow a person to heal themselves, really.
Absolutely. Couldn't be in more agreement. It is absolutely true, because you can really only heal yourself. As healers, we can really only facilitate the healing that takes place within each person. And some people, like you said, are meant to heal, and some people, that may be their path to have that experience. And obviously we don't know who is going to heal and who is not. But I also find that sometimes people or patients, they never blame yourself for not being able to heal. Maybe this is just how you incarnated to have this experience. Because I hear relatives or other people talking about the patient, saying, oh, well, this person has a negative mindset, or this person doesn't want to heal, or but many times that's not true. When you talk to the patient, they want to heal. They may just be tired. They've gone down a long road of trying to heal, and it's important to allow that person.
Well, I think for you and I, we see there's many dimensions happening at once. Many dimensions happening at once in relationship, many dimensions happening at once in our own lives, about an illness or a mindset, all of that. We don't always know what the whole picture is until the very end, So it is true that we want to just be as present as we can, offer, and just be compassionate, forgiving, loving. Those are really very, very powerful tools.
Can you talk about the different dimensions of consciousness and how you experience them?
Oh, sure. So I spoke a little bit about it earlier in that there are these different dimensions, the third dimension, the fourth dimension, the fifth dimension. I have gone, when I work in fifth dimension, I sometimes will go up. So this is like a meditative process. I sometimes will go up into higher dimensions, higher than fifth dimension, and I experience working with a council of angels who I'm not sure they're directing things, but more they really are assisting me in understanding what my power is and what I need to be doing. And then I also find that there are even higher dimensions, and I've gone as high as the 12th dimension, which is just light and powerfully creative and beautiful. And so when I work with people as I'm mentoring them, I try to assist them in learning how on their own to go to these dimensions. Sometimes I'll use crystals in helping them, like a crystal grid, maybe on their body, or I'll use sound, I'll use toning. I can use various ways of assisting them in moving into those different dimensions. And then they practice. And as they practice more, they can create in their lives more of what they want.
I love it. So all the people that are listening, I'm talking to Beth Gineris, and how can people get in contact with you and get your books?
So my website is bethgineris.com. So that's BETHGINERIS.com. You can find me there. You can find more about me there. And you can find my books through there or through Amazon.com.
And what were the
Those are,
titles of the books again?
oh, thank you. Turning No to On, The Art of Parenting with Mindfulness, and Turning Me to We, The Art of Partnering with Mindfulness.
Love it. And where are you located? Where do you practice?
I practice in Albuquerque, New Mexico in person, and Tempe, Arizona in person. However, you can also get me online through Zoom. So through that website, you could always contact me. And I do workshops mostly in Arizona and New Mexico. I haven't ventured off into California quite yet.
All right. And did you have a phone number for your clinic, or is it better to
I
just
do.
contact you through the website?
You can contact me through the website, but also you can find me through my phone number. It's 505-362-0056. And you can email me through the website quite easily. Oh, and I have a YouTube channel called Energy to Heal. So NRG 2, the number 2, HEAL. And I have a few videos on there about MAAPS and counseling and partnering and parenting, all fun stuff.
That's just lovely. We want to thank Beth so much for coming on today, Science with Soul. And everybody, you should check out her website and get in contact with her. She's an amazing woman, and she can help you in so many different ways, both with counseling and acupuncture and energetic work. So do check her out, go to her website and give her a call. And again, I just want to thank you so much for coming on the show today.
Thank you, Dr. Lottie. It was fantastic to see you.
I hope you enjoyed listening to this episode of Dr. Lottie, Science with Soul. Make sure you are subscribed so you will be notified of new episodes as they become available. To book a session with me or to sign up for a workshop or to see me as a physician, please visit drlottie.com or divinespiritualessence.com. My book, Med School After Menopause, The Journey of My Soul, is available online at Amazon as well as other online platforms worldwide.